Remember who we are. Remember who we are. Remember where we come from. We have something that's amazing. We have a history. We have a culture that is far superior.
Tommy Robinson är en av Englands mest kända personer. För drygt 10 år sedan startade han English Defence League, en organisation som kommer att utvecklas till en massrörelse. Sedan dess har han delat landet i 2, hatad av etablissemanget och älskad av stora delar av verklighetens folk, av den arbetarklass han själv kommer ifrån. Häng med och träffa Tommy Robinson och hör om varför han startade folkrörelsen, hans framtidsplaner och vad det är han fruktar mest.
Nu är vi här i London, eller utanför London, och vi är precis på väg att träffa Tommy.
Until the Rotherham report. When you hear what happened to this gentleman in London, it was about 200 attacks. When I was growing up, there was 10 nightclubs. There was nightclubs everywhere and queues, massive queues to get in the nightclubs. Now, there's no nightclub. There's not a single nightclub in the town.
År 2009 i Luton, Storbritannien. Engelska soldater hyllas när de återvänder från utlandstjänst. Men firandet avbryts när ett gäng islamister dyker upp för att håna och förolämpa soldaterna. Detta leder till stor irritation hos engelsmännen och ledde till en ny demonstration i maj samma år, organiserad av United People of Luton. Den organisationen leddes av en viss Tommy Robinson och blev sedermera English Defence League.
Most people think my activities first started in 2009, which was the formation of the English Defence League. But in 2004 I organised a demonstration in my hometown of Luton called Ban the Luton Taliban. And that was because this was when I was 21 years old. I was watching as Al-Mujahideen, who are now a proscribed terrorist organisation. But back then, no one had heard of them. This was before 7/7 attack. This was before a lot of the terrorism, a lot of the jihad. And they had their office in my town centre. So Omar Bakri, Abu Hamza, they were all based in Luton. And they were recruiting openly in our town centre with a big stall, and they were sending people to fight against our forces, sending people to support the Taliban. So that was the start of my activism. I organised a demonstration called Ban the Luton Taliban. Hundreds of us turned up in the town centre. And the fallout from that was, after that I was targeted by a lot of the Muslim gangs. So I sort of like buried my head for another 5 years. And then we had a soldiers' homecoming parade. Soldiers were returning from duty in Afghanistan and they were attacked in Luton Town Centre. They were attacked by dozens of Muslim men shouting "baby killers, butchers of Basra." That to most people, or that was the final straw. And it was at that point that obviously I used a pseudonym, I wore a mask, because I was worried, because I knew from 5 years earlier, the minute you try and talk about these issues, I knew the consequence of it. So,
have you always been an industrious person like that? I mean, you can gather the crowds like you did in 2004 and with EDL?
So I've gone to football my whole life, and in a football culture in my hometown. My friends, my family, and all the people I knew. So the numbers I gathered were around the football community. But I've always been the leader of the group, of my friends, or the organiser of anything. Even if it's someone organising the holiday, it's me organising the holiday. If it's someone organising me where we're going, how we're getting there, I was always the person organising that. So that sort of holiday developed into mass protests and a street movement. But it started before the English Defence League. It started with a group called the United People of Luton, which was focused on Luton. Luton is, well, we were going to talk about it tomorrow, but it was the launch pad for the 7/7 bomb plot, the fertiliser bomb plot, the Stockholm bomber. says Luton Islamic Centre. So this is the Islamic Centre where the Stockholm bomber was radicalised.
Okay.
This is the mosque he went to. This has been raided now. So Stockholm bomber, many other bombers.
Ja, här står vi alltså utanför den moské där Stockholmsbombaren från 2010, han som misslyckades med att döda någon, han som sprängde sig själv på en sidogata. Det var här han gick och det var här han då ska ha radikaliserats innan han åkte till Stockholm för att försöka mörda oskyldiga människor.
Then the imam's name there is Kadir Bask, and I done a thing I was always highlighting this mosque saying, look, because we were translating their website about punishment for adultery, about execution of homosexuals, all on their website, all on their mosque website. So we hear so much about hate, yeah? We hear so much about hate. This mosque website had the homosexuals must be executed on their website. My council, which your councils will be doing this in your country, we had a Luton in Harmony program, which was a program that would bring everyone together, and they have all the leaders of the Islamic community involved in this program. Yet the whole time, but we were sidelined. We weren't allowed to be part of it because we were extreme. Like the Swedish Democrats, you're extreme. But this man was, Kadir Bask, and I was always highlighting him. And then what? So then when I got him on the radio, I got him to admit he'd punish homosexuals, kill homosexuals. I got him to admit a lot of his extreme views because I pushed him and questioned him and said, no, answer. Because of that, the school inspection then raided this school. And they found books in this children's library about cutting off hands and feet. They found books in the children's library, all about extreme, about Islam, really. Yeah, they found books, and then we had Khalid Massoud, the Westminster Bridge terrorist. Where did he work?
Olive Tree.
Here, because of all the highlighting of the Westminster Bridge attack, the newspapers then found sermons by Kadir, who was part of my council. They found Kadir telling the Muslims to prepare their weapons ready for the battle with the kuffar in our lands. And you know, here's where it gets even more crazy. I have a friend who I met who does counter-extremism work for the government. He trains colleges, teachers and schools against the far right, against what white symbols are, against all this. When he went there to train them, who was training the police? Kadir Bask. He's training the police on Islam. He's training a terrorist and a terrorist supporter. This is the road of the suicide.
Det som slog mig när jag åkte genom Luton med Tommy var hur stora de demografiska förändringarna var i staden. Jag trodde att Malmö var illa.
This used to be a nice road. Not anymore. So this Irish would have originally lived here.
Men Luton var utan tvekan 7 resor värre. Vi åkte genom stora delar av staden i över 1 timme. Vi åkte förbi skolor. Vi gick genom de centrala delarna. Områden som tidigare var engelska. Allt var förändrat. Luton har slutat att vara en engelsk stad.
It turns out the demo was in response to the arrest of local woman Mona Thorney, whose husband set off a bomb in Stockholm in 2010.
Hands off Muslims!
Hands off Muslims!
Hands off Muslims!
British police go to hell!
British police go to hell!
I mean, like, they're all shouting, die, please die. Die, please die. And they're all marching.
And that was after the attack?
That was after the attack. So after the attack, they arrested his wife. And they were shouting, hands off Muslim women, because they arrested his wife. So you're not even allowed to arrest a terrorist wife. And apparently, when in the thing, she was the more extreme than him. She played a major role in his extremism. As if like she didn't know what he was going to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you were younger in Luton, how was it growing up? Was it a lot of immigration, a lot of Islamization already back then? How was it for you as a young kid in Luton?
So I was born in 1982. When I was born in 1982, there was one mosque. There's now over 35. And basically, I've watched that happen. I've seen the consequence of that happen. My mother was an Irish immigrant to this country. My friends are St. Lucian, Jamaican, Bulgarian, Italian, Polish. We are all sons of immigrants in Luton. And you'll see when we walk around the town tomorrow, there's not white English have been a minority in Luton since I can remember. So growing up, I never grew up in a completely white area, and I'm glad I didn't. And I don't hate the town for that. But what I can talk about and warn people of is the fact that all of these immigrants come into one town, and the majority of them have just got on fine together. But there's one section that have failed to integrate, failed to assimilate, completely divided themselves. And that's the Islamic community. And that's not our fault. And as a child growing up in Luton, that's why I always say, well, it's not our fault. We haven't done this. If you come into the school I went to, if you go into the dinner hall, you'd have white children sitting mixed with black children, sitting mixed with Sikh children, with Chinese children, all sitting in tables together. In the corner of that dinner hall, you'll have 10 tables of Muslims and only Muslims. Now, we haven't done that. That's not children that have done that. That is a divide, and I never understood it growing up. I always used to just put it down to the fact they were Pakistani. I just knew there was something very different about this group because they were Pakistani. They were naturally hostile towards us. They had a gang-like mentality. There's no such thing as a fair fight, even in school. And I realised that very quickly. It's numbers. It's 10 people beating one person up. And that's something that I hadn't seen by any other community or any other group.
Even in the non-Muslim areas, the schools are now becoming majority Muslim. And then before you know it, this is all you see. Al-Hijra, Al-Bilal, Zaman, Jamala. I've never known someone to have so many chicken and chips. Because they're just chicken and chip shops everywhere. I think Luton has more chicken and chip shops per square mile than anywhere else in the country. And there's the most prominent site in the sky, you see? The mosque.
Ah, yeah.
Of course. So it has to be the tallest. And then Pinky Gym, there's a women's gym, obviously, because the women can't go to the gym with the men. And other than that, it's just fruit and veg and hijabs and burqas and chicken.
They rarely talk about the cultural argument. They talk about, they're costing money and they're committing crime. But even if they weren't, the culture's gone, you don't feel at home, and that's, one's right.
Yeah. It's one's right in your own country.
Yeah.
Especially if you have 1,000 years of history there.
Exactly.
Especially if people have fought and died for it.
Yeah. I was watching this.
This is another school. So There's another school.
Flying Start Center.
Yeah, so you see here. There will not be one non-Muslim child in this school. Not one. Now, many of the children here will go to school and they'll leave high school without meeting a non-Muslim. But there's a mosque.
Oh, yeah.
I'll drive round. Here. So this is the centre of Bury Park. Obviously, a lot of these shops won't open. They run a completely different time frame from us. So we open at 9 a.m. These will open at 11, 12. And they stay open
until late.
Till late at night. In fact, everything's completely different. So look, carpet shops, they'll usually be open. You go to any other carpet shops, they'll be open. You go to any other stores, they'll be open. Not here. The whole system runs differently here.
All day halal breakfast.
All day halal breakfast.
Yeah, so growing up, I saw all of this. I saw attacks. I saw the grooming, which people now know as grooming. I think it's a terrible word to describe what it is. It's a rape jihad being launched against our women, against our daughters. That actually happened to a cousin of mine. So my cousin was a victim of gang rape when she was a child. And back then, the police did nothing because they were too scared of the perpetrators, too scared of being deemed racist. That's what's come on years on with government reports, is that the reason the police failed to act and protect the children is because they were too scared of being called racist. So all of these things sort of chisel out your character. I watched all these things growing up. 2009 was the final straw, Soldiers' Homecoming, and I remember asking my friends, like, if we allow this, what's next? They're now attacking our soldiers in the streets. And in fact, we made a stand, and a lot of people have seen what happened next. If you've if anyone who's watched, we saw the poppies then got burned, and then it's inevitably Lee Rigby was beheaded on our streets by the same group that I've been talking about and highlighting for a decade. It's just a private event. I'm happy to take photographs and meet everyone. That's why we've come here. Yeah, and just a thank you to Jimmy for helping us out. So, as I've said already, there's some lads here from Sweden. One country is in a worse situation than ours, this happened. You're more screwed than us. Your country's in a bigger problem than ours. But Kent has been involved in Swedish politics. We first met, we twin, years ago. Kent now runs the biggest Swedish alternative news network. He's come over for a couple of days. We're going to take you for a walk through Luton town tomorrow. So we're going to go into the discovery. As I said, I'm back, so we're going to go back out on the street. If you put in United People of Luton, it's just the police try and stop everyone here. And all we was trying to do originally was get to the War Memorial. That's it. If they'd let us get there, there would have been no deal. No one would have ever known me. So it was that moment of them stopping us that was like, hold on. So 10 years ago, if people would talk about Islam, they would go, Islam. They would whisper. And it's a crazy thing to watch. I remember pulling people up. People would be talking. They'd be like, yeah, but... And it's like, did you just whisper? No. Did you just whisper before you spoke about Islam? And basically, in this country, we had an entire population. And how do I describe it? Fear is paralysing. And fear had paralysed our entire country, especially our establishment and our police and our political leaders. But that fear had also paralysed our people, and people were too scared to talk about Islam. And what we done was we broke those taboos. We made it acceptable. We didn't just make it acceptable. We marched down the street singing songs about Islam. We made sure that everyone knew, and we had a lot of aggression thrown at us, but also a lot of labels. And I'd say that the English Defence League broke the back of being scared of being called racist. Because what we hoped to give was inspiration to other people to think, well, if they're doing it, if they're saying it, and what we're saying was true. And in fact, just on one issue, and this is where I'm super happy about my history with the English Defence League, in the sense that if you do a graph, and anyone can do this, and you take up sexual exploitation and gang rapes by Muslim men, the English Defence League forms here in 2009. There's a graph that will go like this for the arrests of Muslim men. Yeah, we will get to 2009, towards the end of 2009, and it just goes like that. Because we were screaming from every city centre that our daughters are not halal meat, that our daughters are not to be raped, that these are our children. And what that done was, and in fact, Andrew Norfolk is the lead reporter who is given credit for exposing the Muslim rape gangs. Now, in an interview, what he actually said is that he'd been told about it for years. So as a journalist, he knew about it. Like every other journalist, like every other politician, they ignored it. When the English Defence League formed, he said, when I saw this group, this far-right group, which we're not, when I saw this far-right group, I knew we had to take it back, this issue. So he then reported on it. So what have we wanted? What's my goal been? My goal has been to raise awareness about the problems from Islam. I think more people now in this country are educated than they've ever been on the threats and the dangers from Islam. Yeah, so this is Luton. This is the famous Luton town. Here come the looks, look. How you doing, mate? You all right? Good, good.
Okay. Let us know if we need to...
How you doing, bruv? You all right? Yeah, good, mate. It's the centre of Luton, and originally when the English Defence League started, or the United People of Luton, because when we get to the end of here, it was here where Muslim groups were taken through the town hall to attack our soldiers, which essentially gave the formation. It was that moment we held our first march through here. Everything come back to here. And it was, it's history.
Indeed.
It's history, but the town's just changed and changed and changed and changed for the worse.
Yeah.
I always say to people, is there more freedom? No, there's not.
So you're getting recognized here. Someone filmed us just now.
The Muslim land, yeah. Depends. Like, again, I've been in custody. I haven't walked through the town centre for a little while.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But usually, like, I've been assaulted here so many times. How you doing, man? I've been assaulted here so many times. It's not all bad. I mean, if they assault me, I'm just going to tell them, no, he's worse.
Yeah.
Listen to him in Sweden.
A lot of people say, oh yeah, there were angry demonstrations. And I'll give you an example of that. This is just so people can understand. People say, yeah, but I saw them causing trouble on the street. I went to stay in a city called Blackburn, which is in the north of England. And I went to stay with a family whose 12-year-old daughter had been victim of these gangs. And I sat and heard the most horrific stories from that family. And they had a 17, 18-year-old brother there who was telling us all these stories about what had happened to the sister. The next day we had a demonstration in Blackburn. And there was trouble and our supporters were clashing with the police. And I went down the front to calm our supporters down. And who was at the front clashing with the police? The young girl's 17, 18-year-old brother, who I'd been hearing these horrific failures from the system, failures from the police. If any other community was failed in the way that our government and our police have failed our daughters in this country, the whole country would burn. If Muslim children were targeted, gang raped, kidnapped, called dirty Muslim filth, because our daughters are called dirty white this and English bitches and slag. If that had happened, Muslim men would burn this whole country. So the fact that you might have had a few angry men at a few demonstrations, I think they've escaped pretty lightly.
Yeah, behind me, look.
Yep.
And here, you see here, this is where they used to have a big pace table here, yeah? The extremist organisations did. So up until we formed, every single Saturday, there'd be a massive pace table there where they'd be recruiting for the Taliban, recruiting for Al-Qaeda, recruiting for anyone. If it was now, they'd be recruiting for ISIS. But there were always tables full of literature about Islam, but radicals, real radicals. All of the people who used to man those stalls are pretty much now in jail for terrorism. The majority of them. Yeah. They're all in jail for terrorism. But until we formed, they were there every week. Once we formed, we started clashing with them and causing a disruption and making the council listen and making the police listen. And then that group who used to stand there are now a prescribed terrorist organisation. But they weren't.
Yeah.
We are seeing court cases. We know I was in prison recently again on a court case, but we are seeing court cases every week from gangs of 20, 30 Muslim men who have been abducting and prostituting. And to people in some countries, unless you have read the facts about this, it just sounds unbelievable that young English girls, I'll give you an example. A young English girl, 11 years old, in the city of Oxford. She was taken by Muslim gangs. They had a hot iron rod. They heated the letter M on iron, and then they inscribed her bum because she was the property of Muhammad. Another young girl, they kidnapped her, they took her out on the table and they nailed her tongue to a table. We're not talking just about rape, about sexual gratification by paedophiles. We're talking about torture, about dominance over non-Muslim women. That's what we've seen in this country. And when you see the lengths the police have gone to accommodate this. We had two young girls in the city of Rotherham. Two young girls' dads got together. Their 13-year-old daughters have been taken by these Muslim men. The Muslim men have them in a house where they're raping them. The two fathers got together and they turned up to get their daughters back. The police turned up, they arrested the dads.
I read about that.
And I'm glad because without the report, without the J report on Rotherham, these sort of stories. So when I started my activism in 2009, I started telling people these stories from Luton. No, this is what, and people didn't believe me. And in fact, historically, there's a famous broadcaster called on Newsnight called Paxman. And Andrew Paxman is like one of the most famous BBC reporters. And he sat there with me in 2010, and I'm trying to tell him, our daughters are being gang raped and taken and kidnapped. and the police are doing nothing. And he looked at me like I was ridiculous.
Do you know anyone who's been murdered by a Muslim gang? You probably don't, I do. Do you know any 15-year-old girls that you know that you've grown up with that have been raped or pimped? You don't. So I don't expect you to understand the issues.
These are all personal issues of yours.
Personal issues in towns and cities like mine. They're not statistics. These girls are... Well, whose daughters do you think these are? Whose sisters? They're ours, in working-class towns and communities. And people are fed up of what's going on, and it is being ignored. For 20 years, our councillors and the leaders from the Islamic community have conspired with the police to not deal with Muslim pimping gangs. They've allowed systematic rape of our youth for the fact of being scared to be called a racist.
Although you know perfectly well that this happens in all communities with a tiny minority of people.
Now, years on, which is why I sit in a position where a lot of the public probably have more trust in me than they do politicians, because everything I said, everything I've been saying exactly the same the whole way through, and everything we've said has come into fruition. Everything we've said was true. Everything.
But that's the town hall. And that's the war memorial. So originally, when they attacked our soldiers, we set up a group called United People of Luton. And our idea was to show the whole country that the people of Luton don't hate our troops. We wanted to get to this war memorial. That's all we wanted to do.
And then you left the DDL. I know you talked about that a lot, I'm sure, throughout the years. But just to give our viewers some information, you left, and why was that in the end?
So for your viewers, as I said, I'm from Luton Town. If you line up the people I love, they're not all white. When I started the English Defence League as a nationalist organisation, flying the flag of St George, we attracted all sorts. And we had a battle within the movement for the first couple of years of people who wanted to divert the attention away to other issues that they wanted to talk about. General immigration. I'll be honest, I don't have a problem with immigration from European countries. I think we should have limited controls on numbers, but most of the people I know and love wouldn't be here if it wasn't for immigration, in a sense. My problem is, and my problem to stick to, has always been solely Islamic immigration. So I felt like I was continually battling with small groups within the English Defence League who had their own agendas. There were some genuine far-right groups within, genuine Nazis within, and in the end, whatever happened, so when I'd get an opportunity to get on TV or to talk about my issues, I'd continually be shown footage of what were deemed my supporters acting against what I'd believed myself. So I felt it was dragging the debate back, and I felt that I wanted to separate myself from it, and I wanted to continue to talk and highlight and be taken seriously. So, but at the same time, the English Defence League played its role. I also have, as I've spoke to many of you about, where's my phone? About legal battles. Many of you here have already supported my legal battle so far. I'm next in court on the 14th of November, where I'm at the High Court, and I'm at the High Court for civil proceedings for defamation.
Tommy Robinson blev stämd för förtal efter att ett skolslagsmål uppmärksammades stort i England. Det var en syrisk invandrare som hade fått vatten hällt av sig av en engelsk pojke som då anklagades för rasism, och det blev jättestort. Piers Morgan och många andra tog upp det i TV. Det ledde till att Tommy Robinson fick upp ögonen för det och reste dit och uppdagade då att den här syriska invandraren inte var så oskyldig som det påstods i media. Och så gjorde han en dokumentär av det, ett reportage. För detta reportaget så stäms han nu av den syriska invandraren och riskerar miljontals kronor i rättegångskostnader och skadestånd.
I pride myself on telling the truth. I pride myself on being the alternative side of the story. So I made a video explaining that Jamal is not innocent. That this wasn't about race. This was a school playground argument that's now being used as a political tool
essentially then I was contacted by lawyers and I was offered or advised that I should apologise and I should pay compensation to Jamal. I personally feel that if I pay him that money, I'll be accepting Bailey's guilt in a case that I know the kid done nothing wrong, and in a case that I know everything I said was true. My cost to fight this case is £200,000. If I lose, I have to pay their legal costs, that's £450,000, as well as give this little Syrian refugee, Jamal, £100,000. I said to my wife, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Because I can see what they're doing. They're going to go after the house. That's what they're going after my wife's and kids' home.
Hello, my friends. I didn't know it, but Tommy Robinson has another court case tomorrow. I thought he was done until the spring. Here's a message he just sent me this morning.
Hey, mate. Court case, bruv. I've been to 2 solicitors this morning. I'm drained from it, but I've got... Tomorrow is the High Court. It's this Syrian refugee, Jamal's case. It's basically what I'd say is they are attempting to absolutely drain me and wipe me out financially through and shut me up through this case. I'm being sued by the lawyer who's trying to get Shamina Begum into our country, the lawyer who represents all the terrorists. That lawyer, in this case to sue me, handed my children's address to a far left extremist who come and threatened to murder my children. My family had to leave their home, but yet I'm the one being taken to court by this lawyer.
This madman I'm about to show you is who the lawyers who are representing this Syrian kid that's suing Tommy. This guy is the one they sent to Tommy Robinson's family home to serve the lawsuit on him. They sent this Antifa thug. I'm not kidding.
He loves it. And on that note, see, on that happy note. Oh, by the way, Tommy, I am gonna mince your kids, mate.
That is the least of it. I'm not going to show you what else he said about how he was going to physically abuse Tommy's family, including Tommy's wife. It is just too gross. That was the Antifa thug the Syrian lawyer sent to Tommy's house to serve him papers.
This is just intentionally done to drain me financially, hundreds of thousands of pounds. This is costing hundreds of thousands of pounds to defend. I have a job to report the truth. You have a job to report the truth. If it's the truth, it's the truth, and it should be reported. We shouldn't be scared and intimidated by legal letters and people threatening to sue you, which is what they're doing now. They want to essentially take my home from me for telling the truth.
Good.
Which all played a part. So that's partly why I said coming out of jail, I'll take a back seat for a few weeks. Oh, here we go again. I didn't have a beer. So as I said, I knew in 2004 when I first done my demonstrations, I knew the effect, and I knew that the gangs would target me. So I'll be honest, I was terrified. Yeah? And I didn't want to be doing it. So although I wanted to, I was like most other people. I had a successful company, I had property, I was a successful young businessman, but I also knew what was happening was wrong. And I wanted to talk about it. But I knew that we don't live in a free society where you can just talk openly without the backlash from the authorities and gangs. One thing I was ready for, at the same time I'd built myself ready, was the targeting by Muslim gangs. What I wasn't ready for was the full weight of the British state, the interference from government and police, and the targeting of all of my family through different organisations within the government. So it changed my life in the sense that I lived, and I think trying to come to terms. If I explain, like I felt like I still feel like I'm walking around with a terminal illness.
I've been violently beaten multiple times. There's 6 Muslims in jail who were on their way to murder me. They got caught with guns and bombs, IEDs. I've had, in the last 4 months, I've had 2 Osman warnings just in the last 4 months. So is my family, to say there's intelligence people are planning to kill us. So in those early years, I put a bulletproof vest on. And I started trying to be careful and cautious. And then I made my own decision that's not the life I want to live. And if I am killed, I'll be killed on my terms, walking wherever I want with my head held high. So I don't hide from anyone or anything. Some people would say that's stupid, but I'd say that in those first few years of the English Defence League, I struggled to come to terms with this. And I struggled in the sense, even back then, I'd be drinking alcohol and I'd be partying a lot, but I think that was a way of dealing with the pressure. And now, I've accepted it. And whether I say it's an empowering thing, I can understand why some Muslims, because I'm not scared by it. So I go where I want, when I want. I inevitably am not stupid, so I'm fully aware that we have in this country 22,000 British Muslims on a terror watch list. 3,000 of them are monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 2,000 British Muslims went to fight for ISIS and over 600 have returned. If they want to cause a storm in this country, I'm their best target. And I know that. I'm not stupid. I know that. They'll know that. So if they can find me, what I do, because I have a young family, is that the minute there's, we moved recently again, so the minute there's anything that I feel a risk or anyone knows where they are, then we'll move instantly. So I've said many times I'd like my wife and my children to leave this country.
There's Saif al-Islam, that one there. Yeah, he's the leader. Yeah. What? What have I got to talk to you about? What have I got to talk to you about? What have I got to talk to you about?
What have you got to say about Islam and that, innit?
Yeah, I have,
yeah. Yeah? So why didn't you say it now?
What do you want me to say? It's a ideology, it's got no place. Yeah, it's got no place, bruv.
And what you
Sharia
got?
law's got no place in this country. What do you mean, what have I got?
Go on, tell me, what do you stand for?
What do I stand for?
Yeah, what do you stand for?
Integration, bruv. I don't stand for paedophilic practices, yeah?
What do you stand for? Go on, tell me.
What do you mean, what do I stand for? What do you stand for? How's it racism? How's it racism? How's it racist to oppose a fascist ideology?
Fascist ideology?
It is
And what
fascist.
do you... You're racist.
How am I racist?
You hate Asians,
what
yeah?
What race are Asians? What race are Muslims?
I heard. Come on, Cloud. Where are you running away from?
Because I know I'm not going to know what you like, bruv. You have about 100 you in a minute. You f***ing little chief.
You mentioned that you didn't expect that the establishment would go after you the way they did.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I know there's a lot of court cases thrown your way. Can you talk about that and why do you think this is happening from the establishment?
So if we start at the beginning, I start my activism with the English Defence League, and then I'm done on dawn raids. I have police raids. I'm arrested at the airport and they raid multiple properties. Now they arrested me on a criminal damage charge, that they said happened in a hotel in the north of England. Now when they arrested me, I was due to be speaking the next Sunday in a city of Bradford about grooming gangs. This was before it's all come out. So I'm due to be speaking in Yorkshire, which is the same police force for Rotherham, who have hid this fact. They've arrested me on a bogus charge, and then they've given me bail. My bail conditions are, the date I'm bailed to is the same date I'm supposed to be having a demonstration. My bail conditions are I'm not allowed to contact the English Defence League, not allowed to send an email, not allowed to go on social media. So from the very start, it's clear in black and white, their police raid of all these officers, they come with guns as well, was intimidation and part of a tactic to silence me. Now, I carried on, and the grooming issue got through. But if what they tried to do straight away was to stop it. From that then, what I had is three weeks after that raid, I had another big raid where the police come through again. And what they did is they'd gone back 10 years on every financial thing in my life. Not just in my life, in my mum's, my dad's, my family's, all of my family. They'd gone back dissecting, looking for not paying tax on things sold on eBay. Saying you earned more than you earned when you were getting a mortgage. Anything and everything they went through. So from the very start, it's like Al Capone. How'd they get Al Capone and they on tax? It's like, here's this, and what I am is just a working class kid from Luton Town. He's raising issues we don't like. Get rid of him, basically. That's what, get rid of it. And in 2011, I was put in prison and I spent 22 weeks in solitary confinement. That then, it's against the law. You're not supposed to do more than 30 days in solitary confinement. I've just done it. In the last 12 months, I've done another 5 months of solitary confinement. They know the consequence of that. I believe each thing they've done over the years has been intentionally to try and break me or break my resolve or cause you mental problems, essentially. But that's what I say I wasn't ready for. Just the onslaught from the establishment and just how desperate they are. And then we find out that our council and our police are opening a centre in the town called Discover Islam. And this centre, when I first saw it, I thought, well, what's this? I went on their blog, the leader's blog. So yeah, anyway, well, that's what I was saying. They cause trouble. But went on the bloke's blog, and he said that he will not rest until Islam is brought into every home in Luton. Why do we want Islam? Why do we need Islam in every? Why are the council and why are the police and why are all of them opening a centre to bring Islam into every home in Luton? Why? So straight away I started looking at the leader of the centre. His name was Yusuf Bonner. And Islam was actually his fifth religion. Nah. He'd been a Jedi, he'd been everything. Islam was his fifth religion. And he come to Luton, well, he was coming to Luton to open this centre. So then I started looking on his blog and he said things like, Christians wearing suicide vests of wrongful belief. We must deactivate those suicide vests. He spoke very derogatory about all other faiths. And so I highlighted it. We held a protest outside the centre. He actually resigned before the centre opened. But then all they done was replace him. Yep. They just replaced him with someone different. And since then, for the last 6 years, 5 years, I don't know, this centre has been open. And it's been, I guess, bringing Islam into every home in Luton. Yep. Let's see. Hey man, I'm alright, you?
Good, thank you. I'd have to ask you kindly to leave the centre, please.
To leave?
Yeah, thank
Why?
you very much.
Why?
I'd like to ask you to leave.
Why?
Call the police, just have to.
Call the police?
Yeah, I'll have to call the police.
What for?
I'd ask you kindly to leave, thank you
But
very
what
much.
for, bro? So
right?
they're from Sweden, they've come over, they're looking at Luton.
Nice.
Why do I have to leave? I'm not here to cause trouble.
You have to leave, I'm sorry, this is the policy we've been told.
Who by?
Well, what policy is that?
We've been told that Tommy's not allowed in the centre. Can I ask you?
Shall I stand outside? I'll leave these in here.
Yeah, you can all come outside. Come on.
Oh, you have to call the police now when we're outside?
Okay, yeah, just a second. Hold on, just a second.
Do you want me to step away? I'll step away. You ask questions.
Just a second.
He's not going to ask any questions. Look.
Okej,
Quit smoking is easy.
så vi fick en kran i alla fall. Som de delar ut gratis här då.
But the other thing, you know how quickly it can change. You know, you can be walking like this and in a second, boom.
Yeah, you're surrounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because their numbers come so quick.
Yeah.
You argue with one and then they all...
I recognize that from school.
Yeah, from school, you know, you argue with one and just all of a sudden... Yeah, or that's why I said, so you have to walk like this. Yeah. If you're not prepared to be a coward, then you'll fight. Anyone who's gone to school with them understand. Yeah. It's the people who live in areas where there aren't any who just don't understand. They just think you're being horrible. Yeah. So before my most recent removal from all of social media, like every social media, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, any of them, Twitter, gone. Before that, we were winning, and they know we were winning. In a 4-week period, 59 million people watched my videos on Facebook, just off Facebook. 172 million people read my tweets. We had reached the mainstream and we were changing minds. And this brainwashing to the public of who we are. You get the same. Like they will tell people, they will tell the public the person you are. Which when you read it, it's not the person you are. I think this is not who I am. It's not who I am. And I've by no means been an angel growing up. But I'm not a bad person. I certainly don't... The facade or the humour thing, when they say we do this out of hate. Yeah. Where could you get the energy to continue doing this out of hate? I said everything I do is out of love. It's a love for my country, a love for my people, a love for my children, a love for our history. You've got 1,000 years of English history here. And it's going to be given away. It's going to be given away to a barbarian ideology.
How would you, describe yourself?
If you describe myself as I'm an English man. I'm a man. What they don't like to get is that if I walk down the street and someone attacks me, I'm not going to run away. And sometimes I've not helped myself in certain situations, but if I wasn't that man, I would never be brave enough, or I'd never have been able to continue saying what I'm saying. Let's put it into reality. When I first started the English Defence League and we went into the city of Birmingham straight away, we were attacked from everywhere by Muslim gangs with balaclavas. Our supporters were beaten, violently attacked. After that demonstration, how many 30-year-old female school teachers are going to take to the street and talk about these issues? We speak, whether people like it or not, we speak for those 30-year-old female school teachers who share our opinion, but because of the establishment, because of the fear, because of the intimidation, they're too scared to say it. And probably like yourself, if I go around to working class towns, I get a hero's reception everywhere I go. The facade that I'm the most hated man in Britain, I actually generally think I'm one of the most loved men in Britain.
Tommy Robinson, a villain to many, but a hero to some.
What a wonderful man, bringing the justice to these girls. All those poor girls that have been raped and abused.
You all right, lads? Yeah, good, man. Hey, lads. And I know by the reaction I get and when I go places that we're winning. Now, they're playing catch-up, and they've played catch-up very well in the last 12 months, the establishment, by putting pressure. For example, YouTube, they put pressure on YouTube. Labour Muslim MPs were grilling the CEO. There's a video of it. You've got to see the video. They're grilling the CEO as to why my videos are on YouTube. He makes it very clear. He's not breached any of our guidelines. His videos breach none of our guidelines. That pressure continued. Tom Watson, second in command of the Labour Party, the Conservative Party, in government now, they continued to write letters demanding that I'm removed. Now, they were successful. I'm now removed from all social media without breaking any laws, without committing any crime. This tactic should alarm everybody. Even the people who are not on my side, even people who don't agree with me. We either live in a free society, or governments are going to be in conjunction with big tech companies in order to silence and stop people who are criticising them. Now that is fascism, and that's what we're currently witnessing now. And this is the next, I think the biggest problem in our society now, if we want to be able to live in a free society, is that Donald Trump and his government and America need to lead the way in getting to grips with what has become Silicon Valley, who are dominant, who are isolating or hiding conservative voices, who are attacking conservatives. It's like I stood for election in this country. It's not a fair election. The reason you have the reason you're allowed to spend the same amount of money, the reason each candidate is allowed to do exactly the same is to make it fair. Well, this candidate can use social media, Facebook ads, Twitter, all these things to reach the public. I can't use any. So these people can talk about me. I can't even reach the public. Now, that's the future. That's the future. And they all know it. All of their money, they don't go out on the street anymore. It's all done through Facebook campaigns. It's all done through advertisement on Instagram. It's all done by reaching people that way.
Were it the other way around, they would care.
Oh, of course. And it's actually dangerous. It's actually dangerous. And I don't get, like I say, the last thing that I want, when in this country, the last thing we want, everything we do, everything we're doing is to prevent conflict. The last thing we want is conflict.
Right, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name's Stephen. I'm a member of the English Defence League. I said we're travelling to Stoke today, part of a national roadshow where we are raising awareness to the threat of militant Islam and the threat of extremism in our communities, which it is in many of our communities that live in diverse communities. And we're just trying to raise awareness and bring the whole country together. So one of our main mottos is black and white unite, unite the colours, unite the faiths, in the face of extremism.
But when you take away people's ability to talk about issues, to have a platform, to speak at all, and then they see no light at the end of a tunnel, because can this be solved democratically? Well, we're not even allowed to stand for election. And if you are allowed to stand for election, you're not allowed a website. And if you are allowed a website, you're not allowed PayPal. PayPal won't allow you to take money. Stripe won't allow you to take money. You will leave no options for people where they will end up creating monsters. because we have to have a democratic system where people see an opportunity, where if we want to bring about change, we bring it through the ballot box. If you take all of those things away from a society or from a people, and whether they like it or not, on Facebook, I had the most engaged Facebook page in British politics. I had 1.2 million people on there. Every video I'd make would hit 1 million people. As soon as I went live, 30,000 people would be there watching. You're not talking about a fringe small number here. You're talking about a massive number of the British public who their solution to this is to hide it, is to hide and make sure they can't hear. But those people will get angry.
So how do you cope with this new situation when you're banned from reaching out?
Yeah. So I always think of everything like a game of chess, and I've done it for years. I think if they do that, what's going to happen next, and I try and work out what's happening next. I've bought a double-decker bus, a red double-decker bus, where one whole side is a TV screen. So I will continue to make my documentaries, and when I make my documentary, I'll do a big build-up to a presentation in a city centre where 10,000 people hopefully will come to watch the documentary. The only option I have then is to use the people and the support to share the hashtag, to then get to use social media against themselves to get our hashtags trending, to get the word out there. And I think whether they like it or not, even when I was kicked off, anything I've set up since, people flock to. People want to hear it. People want to hear what we're saying. People want to hear an alternative voice. They're fed up of the mainstream. They're fed up of the lies. They've been found out. Everyone knows it. The BBC, Sky, everyone knows it. So obviously we have to, I've just come out of custody again. So I have to make plans. I'm making plans. So I'll continue. We live in a post-free speech era in the UK. We don't have free speech. They pretend to us we have free speech, just like they pretend to us we have democracy. Yeah, you got democracy, vote for Brexit. Yeah, we voted for Brexit 3 years ago.
Ireland voted against the Lisbon Treaty.
They do it again.
France voted against. Holland voted against.
Vote again.
Yeah. And now you're doing journalism, and you've been doing that for, building opinion and for a long time. The way you choose, is that going to be media, or are you still considering politics?
So for me, media is changing people's opinion is what I want to do. Reaching people with the message, making them think, which I have so many people say to me, I mean like unbelievable amounts up until when they got me on social media saying, I used to hate you. I can't believe how much I've been lied to. People would watch, I give a speech at Oxford University, just read the comments. I mean like it's had millions of views. Read every comment. Yeah? And you will see people saying, I can't believe how much I've been lied to about this man. I can't believe what the media made me hate this man. I can't believe all these things. So I always say to people, listen to what I say, not what the media say I say. Hear from me. And that's why they've removed me from social media. They don't want people to hear from me. I always wished, with Nigel Farage with Brexit, I wished he'd just talk about Islam. I wish he'd talk about the problems that affect us in working class communities. He hasn't, never has. In fact, he sides with Islam. He's been a complete coward on the issue. He's brilliant on Brexit. I wish he would have done it because it would have took my need away from ever doing it. So there's a movement of people that grew behind me. It still needs to be political, but I think the most important thing at the minute and concentrating on is still getting people awake. The importance, first of all, you've seen my town. This is what's coming to a city near you. This is the production, this is the growth, it's the demographical change. I've experienced in my life the change of what happens to a town with Islamic immigration. The major importance of alternative media, the major importance of sharing each one of these articles, of having someone that's telling you the truth. The reality of someone telling you the truth, the alternative side of the story, compared to the mainstream media who are lying to you, who are indoctrinating you. So I just want to say thank you for listening, thank you for reading, thank you for watching. Share it everywhere. Make sure you play your part. Every single person can play their part. And I know people are scared and they're worried about their jobs and their careers. Everyone has a role to play. Even if it's sharing this in your group or your WhatsApp messages, even if it's sending these articles to your email lists, everyone has a part to play. Play that part. Thank you and protect Sweden.
Mötet med Tommy och reportaget som ni precis har sett möjliggjordes med hjälp av våra läsare. Utan ert stöd så hade detta helt enkelt inte varit möjligt. Och jag vill ta fasta lite på vad Tommy Robinson sa där i slutet. att det handlar om att väcka så många människor som möjligt om vad som händer i vårt land och i andra länder. Och det här görs genom alternativmedia som många av er har valt att stödja. Fortfarande så är det bara en liten andel av alla som läser Samhällsnytt som faktiskt hjälper till med en donation en gång i månaden. Så jag uppmanar de som ännu inte stödjer tidningen att göra det. Vi har flera olika möjligheter. Vi kan ha Swish, banköverföring, betala med kort och även kryptovalutor. Ni kan se alternativen här bredvid mig eller i beskrivningen nere till videon, så har ni också en länk till den sidan. Ni ser alla olika möjligheter som ni kan stödja tidningen. Tack för att ni tittade och vi ses nästa gång.